All right, welcome back to another episode of Thoughts in Stereo, now sponsored by Adam Audio. It feels really good to say that. Thank you, Adam, for responding to our email, I guess, and believing in the vision and, you know, kind of getting in early and you know, showing the world that we're legit, all right? We're a serious podcast,
yes, we
right?
are.
We're very serious. And to evidence that even further, we have today Mr. Dan 5PiECE. Well, he goes by 5PiECE and not Dan 5PiECE, but I call him Dan because that's his name.
Appreciate you. Makes sense.
Go ahead and introduce yourself because I will certainly miss something if I try to introduce you. This guy does so much. He knows so much. It's hard to encompass everything in a sentence. So please do your best.
I'm going to try. So, you know, I've been navigating the music industry for a few years. I'm actually a producer and an engineer. Went to Metalworks, which is a, you know, popular music college here in Canada, in Mississauga specifically, just outside of Toronto for the folks listening from abroad. And, you know, I got into the music, obviously as a passionate music creator. I love making it. And then over the years, and the stuff that I really want to talk about today in this podcast to help your audience is really about grant writing and getting music grants, which is, for the people that don't know, it's free money out there for every single music creator. Yeah. You could take this money, you could pay yourself with this money, you could subsidize the different costs of your career. And I got into it completely out of necessity. I was a music creator just like everybody listening here. And, you know, money is hard to come by sometimes in music. It's a challenge, especially as an independent creator, which is why a lot of people sign record deals and publishing deals and whatnot. And navigating the industry, I kept asking myself, I want to work with different artists. These guys don't have budgets. How do I get paid? How do I get money? Because I deserve to get paid. I spent a lot of money on my education and all these different things. So how do I get the bag for this? Yep. And I started realizing that there's music grants in Canada and a lot of other first world countries too, but Canada's where I'm at, so I'm focused on that. And, you know, started exploring that and starting to win grants for these artists, getting these budgets, getting paid for what I, you know, love to do. And then it kind of segued into this whole, you know, second career, you could say, for myself, which is grant writing and also educating others on how to do it for themselves.
So so how do you help people get their grant? Like you have, I think from my understanding, you have like a program or some kind of company that helps people, like musicians or artists, you know, get grants, right?
For sure. So I kind of call it like my side hustle. Like it's called Finding Funding. It's basically a separate business where I not only actually grant write for people. So someone would come to me and be like, hey, I got this project idea. I need funding for it. I want to hire this producer, this engineer, et cetera. And then they would hire me and I would do all the logistics of actually applying. I'd figure out what to apply to. I'd do the actual application. Obviously, we would, you know, communicate and make it happen together because I need that information. But I would oversee that entire process. So that's kind of one stream for that business. But the other stream is I actually have a course product called How to Apply to Canadian Music Grants. And that actually teaches, you know, independent creators exactly how to do what I do. I'm walking you through everything. I'm showing you real applications that have won tens of thousands in funding, showing you all the support materials, which are necessary materials that you need to actually apply to grants. And just walking you through everything from, you know, step one to the very last step so that you can actually do it on your own. So those are the main two ways that I help creators do that business. And of course, if anybody wants to book a one-on-one and talk to me and get some consulting or strategy, that's also a thing. But really, it's the course and actually grant writing that are the main two things that I do.
You haven't gotten any grants ever.
I think it was a couple of years ago. Listen, I know it's a very complicated process and there's a lot of moving parts and kind of all of it has to be right, and you need to fully understand it. And I didn't really know what was going on. I found out about the grants. I went on the website a couple years ago, probably like 4 years ago now, and I tried to do the JSR, the the juried sound recording through Factor, and I ultimately didn't get it because I didn't complete it.
Right. Like you didn't finish your application and submit it.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I didn't really know how. It was asking me for, you know, like you have to list which songs and stuff like that. And at the time I was like, oh no, I want this money so I can write the music. I didn't fully understand it.
Definitely.
So, I mean, if I'm, you know, for our listeners, if I'm an artist and I have, you know, an 8-track EP and I have these 8 songs and I really want to put them out, I need money, I want to go through the Factor grant, or I want to go through a grant, what's the first step?
Well, you already kind of identified the main first thing, which is having a very, very clear vision. I think a big mistake that a lot of people make is they're like, I just want money. Yeah. It's like, what do you want the money for?
To spend it.
I just want money. Well, the first thing is you actually have to take what you're trying to do and format it into what's like basically a project. You know what I mean? And a project doesn't mean like an album, or it's just a nice cohesive way of explaining what you're trying to do. Exactly. Whether it's multi singles. I want to drop like 6 singles in a year. I want to drop a 12-track album or a 3-track EP or 5 EPs, or maybe it's like I want to do 5 music videos. The first thing you have to do is just have extreme clarity on what you're trying to do, all right? The next thing you have to do is actually start having some things in place. So like if you're an artist that has never dropped anything before, and Bijan, we were talking about this the other day, right, when we were talking about grant stuff. If you haven't dropped any music before, there's no point of even pursuing it, really. There's a few like entry-level grants, but they want to see a proof of concept. Every organization, they want to know that whatever you're trying to do is not something that you haven't done before. It's something that you're capable of actually doing.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are kind of the big first 2 things I would say, for sure.
What would you say are some, like, before, like, okay, so say before even somebody would think about getting into applying for a grant, what are some, like, common misconceptions maybe about applying for grants, would you say? Or like people may say, well, I don't fit this criteria, like, you know, like I think people have this idea that it's for only a specific just music producer, or like maybe just a musical artist, or maybe just this or just that. Like what is this really for?
I think that was definitely one. Like a lot of people think that you have to be an artist. You do have to be an artist, but the thing is, so many people fit that profile now. So, for example, the first grant that I ever got, I applied as a producer for a Factor Artist Development Grant. It's a $2,000 grant, and it's actually the one that I would recommend a lot of people try first. Not because it's easy,
even
but
to get your name in the system.
Just to get it in there and just to get yourself familiar with the process. Because it's a 3-question application. You put a budget, you throw in 1 song, a bio, and you're done. It's pretty simple, whereas a lot of them are a lot of moving parts. But the thing is, if I believed that you could only be an artist to apply and win a grant, then I wouldn't have applied and I wouldn't have got that free money.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So the first thing is, you could be any kind of role. All you have to do is actually be making your own musical project, whether you're a producer or you're doing like a DJ Khaled kind of thing where you're like the executive producer, engineer, etc. And the other thing too is you can even help other people if you don't necessarily fit that profile. You can help other people get grants and still get paid, which is what I started doing as well, right? I'm engineering for somebody. I can't get a grant necessarily as an engineer.
But it's like, hey, I know how to do this. I can help you out.
Yo, let me figure out how to get this $2,000, $5,000 to mix the project for you.
And bro, that's just that's you helping the artist find money to pay you.
Exactly.
And it's
you got to be able to take that initiative, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's like definitely one big misconception. The other one is a lot of people think that grants are just for like friends of the grant organization. That is like such BS, because most grants, if you notice, they have all kinds of like descriptions on their website about conflicts of interest and how, like, if you're a juror, for example, with Factor,
you can't get one.
Exactly. Yeah. Factor, they review grants by giving them, a lot of grants they review by giving it to a jury, which is like people like us. We can apply to be a juror.
I know a few people on the jury.
And if you get a grant from somebody, right? If you get a grant from somebody, why you got to do that? If you get a grant from somebody as a juror and you know that person, you're supposed to pass on it. Otherwise, it becomes a conflict of interest.
Really?
So, like, if I was a juror and Bijan applied and it came across, my desk and I'm reviewing it, I'm supposed to be like, nah. Yeah. And if it ever comes back, it could haunt everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. It could be a bad situation.
But how many people sit typically on these juries? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Like, I would imagine hundreds of people for Factor, if not maybe more than that.
Is it just one person reviewing? So, say I applied. Out of these, say, however many jurors, is it just one person reviewing my thing? I'm
not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that it's more than one person. It's at least like 2 or 3, I would imagine, because if it's one person, that's all the marbles, and you're putting a huge decision-making power into one person's head.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And the thing is, too, like when you apply to Factor, like when you get accepted if you get accepted, you have no idea what anybody said, but if you get rejected, they usually give you juror feedback. You usually get like 2 or 3 different pieces of feedback that you could tell.
That's great, too. That's amazing.
Well, it is, but sometimes they're not. You could tell that the person reviewing it, like, they're probably not as aware of what's going on. Like, I've seen some really weird comments, and sometimes, like, very not helpful comments. Like, one time it was like, song is cliche. It's like, in what capacity? Like, is it the subject matter? Is it the beat? Is it everything?
Yeah.
So sometimes they're not as deep as you want.
Are you just in a bad mood?
Yeah.
Is it like...
That's the thing too. Sometimes it may be somebody who's jealous or something. I'm not really sure. Right? I'm not 100% sure the reason.
That makes sense though.
But sometimes you get some really good feedback. Like one time I didn't get it. It was crazy. It was a $35,000 grant.
Wow.
1% away. Because the way that they do it with Factor, at least, is they basically like have all these jurors review it, and then you get an average score. So like it'll be like out of 100, right? So you'll get maybe I applied, I got 73%. If you get rejected, they'll say we're funding 85% and above. So I was really far away from it, right?
Sure.
In this particular case, it was like 84% they're funding. We were at like 82.75 or something. We were so close to 35K. It was scorchingly painful. You know what I mean?
That's the worst.
But the comments were good because they said, hey, like, this was great. Song was amazing. You're just lacking a little bit on the radio side of things. And the important consideration there for me that day and for everybody listening is factor a good chunk of the money that they get and they give away to people comes from radio broadcasters. Or at least it does right now. You know what I mean? Like, it may change in the future.
Right.
But these grants, they're getting money from different places, and then they're giving it to people, right? So they might be getting it from the government, like Canada Council for the Arts. It's a crown corporation or whatever, right? So they're getting money from the government and giving it to artists.
Right.
Factor, they're getting it from radio and a few other different funds, so...
I thought these... So Factor's not government funded? It comes
they
from
may
the radio?
be somewhat government funded, like... I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, where they get all their funding from.
Right.
You could find out, though. Like, if you go online, like, they have, like...
I'm sure they
They have, like, a report every year, an annual report, and they say, like, this much came from the Canadian Heritage Fund, this much came from this.
Now, Factor is one entity. How many of those are in Canada? Is there more? Is it just Factor? Like, I've only ever heard of Factor.
Factor's the big one that everybody talks about.
Of course.
And I think that's why everybody knows it, right? But the thing is, there's a lot. And the thing is, it's going to depend, too, on your location.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, like, right now, we're in Toronto, so we have access to Toronto Arts Council. Now, you live in Brampton, you can't apply to Toronto Arts Council. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be in Toronto, you have to have a physical mailing address.
You need a Toronto mailing address.
Toronto mailing address, not a P.O. box.
Right.
None of that. It has to be a
address,
legit mailing address on your government ID. You know what I mean? So you have to be that, and then you could get that grant. So Toronto Arts Council is one for us.
I guess Mississauga doesn't count.
Well, the thing is, though, Mississauga might have their own grants, though. Like, the thing is, like, the truth is, like, finding grants is not necessarily that difficult. And I recommend anybody that's curious, like, just Google whatever your location is, music grant. You know what I mean? So Timbuktu music grant. You know what I mean? And see what pops up. If there's something, it'll pop up, right? But Toronto Arts Council is a big one for us. Ontario Arts Council, because we're in Ontario.
Yep, of course.
If you're in BC, you can't apply to that. Same kind of rules apply.
Of course.
But if you're in Thunder Bay, if you're in Mississauga,
same thing.
you can apply. And the benefit of that organization is they have a priority group, which is persons outside of Toronto. So they actually, because they recognize that Toronto Arts Council exists, and maybe the other cities don't have it.
The other people.
Wow, that's
so, like, I got an artist from Brampton, a huge grant, and, like, I played that detail up. Like, we're outside of the city, we're in Brampton, we're still close by.
Yeah, that is quite good.
Right? A little bit of a strategy there, right?
That's a good little tidbit for all our listeners.
Trust me.
I was going to ask you, and I made sure to ask you now so I don't forget.
Sure.
Can you apply to the same grant twice?
Some grant organizations, yes. So, like, Canada Council for the Arts, it's another one I didn't mention. They're a big organization Canada-wide. Whether you're in PI, BC, you can apply to them. And they allow, if I'm not mistaken, up to 3 applications per year, no matter to what program. So you can apply to the same program all 3 times.
Oh, interesting.
The truth is there's probably only 2 deadlines for that, but you kind of get it, right? So, like, I applied for a music creation project.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get funded to, like, go up north and just book a cottage and just make music with a couple of my buds and, like, stuff that everybody wants to do.
I need that grant.
Legend. Literal
right?
legend.
I didn't get it, unfortunately, but then I was talking to the organization. They're like, yeah, why don't you just apply again for the October deadline? And the deadline I applied to before was, like, I think, like April or something. They're giving me another chance on the same grant. I could apply with the same plan.
That's amazing.
Slight tweaks, obviously, but that one, a little less limited. Factor, though, you cannot apply for most of their programs to 2 consecutive deadlines. So if you apply in May and the next deadline's October, even if you don't get it in May, you can't go October. You have to wait till the following May.
It has to be a
full year. The only exception, I believe, is the top 20. So if you're the top 20 percentile that didn't get it, they'll give you a second chance for the next deadline because you were so close.
Interesting. It's quite a complex. Yeah, they have it really all, like, locked down.
I love that, though, because it really gives everyone a chance. It's not like...
Definitely.
And from what I know from looking on the Factor website and talking to friends, there are really grants for everything. You don't have to be, like you said, you don't have to be like an artist. You don't have to be the face of it. There's even a publisher grant, like if you want to start your own publishing company.
Really?
Right?
There's different...
There's like record label ones.
There's different business grants. You have to qualify for them, mind you. Like, usually you have to have a few years worth of business records.
Of course.
If you're doing, like, a nonprofit, you could do nonprofit stuff. You have to be a registered nonprofit. Like, there's obviously the little intricacies to qualify.
Of course. But they all exist.
But they're there.
And you can get them if you tried, if you wanted to put the time in, and depending where you are in your career, there's probably a grant for you.
For sure.
Which
and the
is
truth
great.
is, it's not just for people that don't have money, because I think a lot of people think that that's what grants are for. A lot of people with money hire me to apply for grants for them. Like, I have friends who have labels with $500,000 budgets and shit, and they want
extra money.
They're like, yo, can you get me another 500?
Well, it's literally free money.
Yeah, it's free money. You just got to know how to ask and jiggle the keys to open the door. And obviously you want to see it through properly, because the thing is too, and this is the stuff that people don't talk about, getting the grant is just one thing.
Yeah.
Keeping the grant is a whole other thing. You can't, it's not like you just get it and it's done. You got to get it and then you got to see through what you're trying to do.
You have to show them that you're using that money to
you have to show invoices from people, proof of purchases.
That's the big misconception, because whenever I speak to Americans about like, oh, Canada has basically free money grants that they'll give to artists and things like this, you apply, and they're like, oh my god, what do you mean they just like give you $20,000? And I'm like, well, no, it's
like
not
yes
like
and no.
like, yeah, they're not just like, okay, it's in your account, fucking have fun, go buy yourself a new car. Like, it's not like that. It's like you really have to outline everything you're gonna do to the cent. And if you overspend or don't use the money, then like it's not issues, but they have to know about it.
Exactly.
And it needs to be
if
dealt
you're
with
change
accordingly.
Something like if you have this plan and that's what you applied with, and plans change. We all get that, but like if you're gonna change it, you don't just change it. You have to hit them up and be like, hey, I was supposed to hire this videographer. He's in Hawaii. I don't know. He's gone.
Yeah.
I got to hire this guy. Is that cool? You know what I mean? And then it's just a conversation. If they say no, then just don't spend that part of the budget and give it back, or usually they'll find a way to make it work.
If you get accepted, do you get assigned like a representative from, let's just say Factor, because it's the big one? Like, do you get assigned a representative and then you kind of work through that person throughout your project until everything's done?
Yes and no. Like every project, and again, this could change at any time, but at this current time, like you get a project coordinator, and that's before you even win a grant. So like when you sign up on Factor, for example, it'll say like your project coordinator is this guy. You know what I mean? And then you're gonna. The truth is, you're not even gonna really talk to them unless you absolutely have to. You have a question or whatever. But then after, if you get a grant, that person becomes your go-to person if you do need to adjust things or whatever. You know what I mean? So definitely, yeah.
That's awesome.
It is quite interesting. So I would imagine that you will have to keep track of all your invoices, all your receipts of stuff. And they say you've been given $10,000 and you end up spending $9,000 of it. Will they ask for that $1,000 back?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Some grants you have to obviously contribute as well. You got to match a contribution. So like Factor, for the most part, it's for the smaller grants, I should say, like the JSRs and the artist development, they'll do 75% of the budget. Yeah. So if you apply for if you have let's just do it like this. You have a $20,000 budget for the whole project. You got to put in 5. They'll put in 15. Yeah. And if you don't do that, they're only going to match 75%. So they're going to take something back. You know what I mean? Wow. And if you don't spend the money appropriately, they'll take it back. You know what I mean?
Good. Because it allows you, one, to stay organized. Because that is a very hard thing to do as an artist alone. Just not even money involved, just staying organized, staying on plan.
Definitely.
And sticking to it. It's people always want to change things. People always have new ideas. Okay, you know what? This project isn't going to be based around this song. Now we're going to scrap most of the songs. We're going to restart and do this. And artists do that shit a lot.
100%.
And with the Factor grant, it's kind of like, okay, now we've made a plan. We've got accepted for this plan. We have to do it. Like, not have to. It can change a little bit, but like, let's execute perfectly now.
Because you're going to be turning in a track list for whatever you're trying to do. You're going to have a pretty specific plan. So it's like 1-2 things change. Sure, it makes sense. But like, if you say I'm going to do this and you come back with something completely different, it's just like, fam, we didn't agree to this.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this.
You pull up in a Honda and drive back in with a Porsche.
That used to happen. Like, I know a few people that used to do that, and they ruined it for everybody, by the way. Like, don't do that. It ruins it. Because now they're very, like, before they weren't as hardcore about reporting and stuff like that. Now a lot of these organizations, they really want to see everything. They want to see not only your invoice, but your proof of purchase. So, did you send your e-transfer to the email on the invoice? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, right? Did you spend the money properly? And are you able to actually report on it accurately? Like, did you do what you said you were going to do? You know what I mean? That's really what it is.
I mean, like, that is... I think that's daunting for some people.
Yeah, of course.
Which, like, people that aren't really that organized are gonna be like, damn, like, that's a lot. It might deter them, which kind of sucks from even thinking about applying, because they're like, well, like, it's going to be so much to keep track of. What if I mess up? What if they ask for it back? Like, then I don't have it. Like,
I think that's why they do the 25-75.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're also invested in this. So if you mess up, it's also on you. It's not just like you're losing out on our money that you never had.
Exactly.
So,
does your organization and teaching, like, say someone were to approach you,
right?
Okay, so I guess I have a couple questions. So I'll start with this. Say someone were to approach you, like, say Nick here, he's an artist, he has no clue, he wants some grants. First of all, do you take a percentage of the grant, or do you work on a fee basis, or like how does that work? Like somebody were to come up to me like, hey, I need some help. Like how would that work?
For sure. So every grant writer is a little bit different. You know what I mean? I do have a small upfront fee, but a lot of what I do is on the back end where applicable. The thing is, not every grant will allow for a back end payment.
Right.
So like Factor, for example, they have a built-in admin fee with every grant. So like you can get 15% as a grant writer as an admin. And what that means is you're administrating the grant. You're actually seeing it through. You're reporting on it. You're doing that stuff. Other grants, they don't really want you to work with a grant writer. Ontario Arts Council, they want to fund artists and artists only. They don't want to see anything going to somebody else,
nothing
right?
like that, yeah.
So kind of depending on the situation, I'm going to work a little bit differently with every artist. The key thing is the artist would come to me and I would figure out what are you trying to do and which grants that are available to us based on your location, which are the ones that are the best for you. And then we would start figuring out that conversation.
Okay,
you know?
so then the part 2 for that is that say someone comes to you and really has no experience with anything, and maybe he's a little unorganized, or it's the idea, like I said before, is a little daunting. Would your program, would that go as far as just, you applied for them and then the onus is on them, or would you help keep track, or would you help submit all the reports or help them, guide them along the way, or is it kind of just ending as soon as they get the grant, then you're like, okay, now it's on you?
You're saying like if I'm helping them as a grant writer, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so the reason why I do the back end fee is because of that. I want to actually help them through the whole process.
Right.
But because of that, I'm also very particular. I'm not going to be honest, I'm not going to write a grant for everybody. And that's why I created my course, because I want to help people, even though I can't necessarily help them. Maybe they're too early in their career or whatever. Maybe they're just not the right fit for us, right? Or vice versa.
Yep.
Figure it out. You can learn on your own. Here's a course that you can just spend a little bit of money on and learn everything that you need to know. But to answer your question directly, though, yeah, like I will work with that artist from the second we get the grant all the way till it's done.
Okay,
right? And that's
good.
why I charge like that upfront. But to be honest, the upfront's kind of negligible. Like it's not really that much money. It just kind of covers my time to apply. Yeah. My hope, aim, goal is to always win the grant for them, so that I could work with them longer term. And if I know that I could do that, guess what? We can do this again. We can do it again and again, and we can repeat it. And that's what I'm really focused on. How do you find 4 quarters in a way that you can really work with? So can I work with 3 or 4 labels that'll get a $500,000 grant or a $250,000 grant and kind of be their go-to guy? I feel like that's where I'm really focused right now.
Of course.
But I'm still obviously helping artists because I'm passionate about music. I love music, and I love working with people, man.
Of course.
Yeah, so where, I'm not saying this to try to wrap this up, I'm just so that people are listening right now can understand, where would they be able to find your course?
So the course is at www.findingfunding.ca.
Okay.
Important .ca, okay? Because .com is not mine.
We'll do it. We'll
put it up.
Throw up a banner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
www.findingfunding.ca.
And actually what's cool is I haven't launched it yet. Maybe by the time this airs, it'll be up, but I'm actually putting out a free course. It's called Music Grants, Everything You Need to Know to Get Started.
Do you know the date that comes out?
It's done. I'm just putting it together and finalizing and making the landing page. But to be honest, every single person listening, at the very least, check out that course, sign up for it for free.
Yep.
It'll talk about some of the stuff you're hearing today, but you'll learn a lot more. And not only that, both my courses, I've designed them to be super actionable.
Excellent.
So for example, you take the free course, what's going to happen is it's going to get your idea super organized. You'll come in with I don't know nothing about grants. You'll leave knowing, okay, this is the project that I'm going to apply with. This is who's going to be involved. And you'll get all the little things that the grant organization is going to want to know anyways.
Legend.
You'll have that out of the way. Plus, you get some cool worksheets and just
I
some
might
nice
do this
stuff.
course when I get home.
No cap, brother.
I'll give you early access. It's up technically. It's just
it's just
secret location right now, right?
That's awesome. That is fantastic, and I know that so many people will they're just gonna it's gonna, for a lot of our viewers. I think
so many people need funding, man.
Yes.
So many people need money, even if it's the $2,000 artist development one, just to pay for mixing. That's a massive thing for artists. Is you or I produce a song for, or whoever produces a song for an unsigned artist, let's say from your hometown, from Toronto, and they know how to promote themselves on social media and this and that, but then it comes to okay, we got to get the song mixed, and they're like, wait, what? I thought the producer would do it. And it's no, you got to pay for it to get mixed and mastered, and you got to pay for this and this and this and this. And they're like, and it gets to that point where people just go, okay, well then I guess we're not going to release it because it's just I don't have that money to do that.
Being an artist is expensive, man.
It's very expensive.
And you got to be aware of that going in, or you got to be extremely do it yourself, able to bootstrap and do it all.
I was going to say,
and that's kind of why I got into this, right? Because to be honest, even the way I start, I produce and shit too, right? So I was rapping in high school, and I had to buy beats, and I'm like, oh, this sucks, bro. This guy wants like $300,
So you're
$500.
like, just produce it.
Yeah, and this was before like BeatStars and all that stuff. This was like SoundClick days. You know what I mean? I'm showing my age a little bit, maybe, but you know what I mean. But like, it was harder to get. So then I started making beats. I started learning how to make beats, and then that took me down a different path. Same with grants. I needed money. Everybody needs money. Money is arguably money and marketing, two biggest issues I think every single musician faces.
Yes.
Any role in music, that's what they face.
Sure.
How do I solve this problem? This is me solving one problem for myself and hopefully for other people. Marketing, that'll be like the next thing. We'll do another podcast for that. When I figure that one out fully.
That's fantastic. No, it's I truly think that information and this like that information that you just said in the website and everything is really going to help so many people. Like Nick, like what you were saying, like people from here that I work with, and they're like, oh, they want 200 to mix the song, or they want this, and then like they just don't have that money.
And it's not even just that. It's just that like. It piles up. You're like, okay, I'll pay for the mix, and then it's the next thing. It's like, okay, now you got to pay for the master, and it's like oh
you
my
pay
god,
for the
Jesus
video,
Christ.
then you got to pay for some ad spend for a budget for marketing.
Exactly.
The artwork. It all adds up.
It always ends up costing more than you think.
I think a lot of what people need to up like at the beginning spend on is the marketing aspect for sure.
Definitely.
Like video and marketing.
Totally.
And I think that those are also like pretty much the most expensive things. And I think that having these grants and having that kind of money, because like I say it's the most expensive things because like chances are if you're working as an artist, you might know an engineer, you might know a producer that can mix you, or you might mix yourself, and it might not be terribly expensive, but like then shooting a video if you're going to do that, or you know advertising on Instagram, wherever. We were talking before how you were saying how Instagram advertising, you don't think it's that effective.
Yes, like it could be effective. I don't want to totally say it's not.
No,
of course,
but I think it depends on like your intention and stuff and what you're trying to do from it. Like me personally, we're numb to ads. Like, are you really responding to ads? That's number one. Number two, are you seeing any organic posts? Like, unless you've engaged with somebody a bunch of times, you're not really going to see their organic stuff. You know what I mean? I don't even see your posts sometimes, and it might not even be my fault. Maybe I missed like one or two photos you posted. I didn't like them. And now Instagram is punishing me and punishing you too, because I could be a potential customer.
That's right.
But I just didn't see it.
It's like, I think it's if you're spending a little bit, like if you try and do like, okay, I'm going to do like $15-20 for this one post on my Instagram, I think that is not effective because like you said before, it's like, if you're just paying that little amount of money and you're doing like the automatic audience and all that shit off of Ableton, off of Instagram,
automation,
you're literally you're just paying to get it to your own followers that have already chosen to follow you, and you need to now pay to show them your post even though they want to see it.
Totally.
And that's the most frustrating part. It's like I follow, I think it's like 900 people on my personal page, and I see like maybe a tenth of it.
Yeah.
Maybe 90 people.
Yeah.
And they have to be active too for you to even see it.
Yeah, bro.
Like it's a tricky one. So even like we were talking about this before the show, like I'm a big believer in like going direct to your audience. I'm a big believer in email marketing, which a lot of people think sounds like dated and not really current, but all of us have emails.
It's all there.
It's the only thing that we're actually always checking. Sure, some of us have like that 10,000 unread messages inbox.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, it takes nothing for you to open it and actually see something. Yeah. And you can actually really see, you can get your analytics, your data. You're not paying for it because you can do a lot of free email marketing.
Email ads have gotten me a couple, like from Plugin Boutique and stuff like that.
That's
you get an email and you're just like,
it keeps you top of mind. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's all about being top of mind when it comes to marketing. Yeah. In my opinion, obviously, like I'm not here as a marketing person, but I've obviously done a lot of marketing. So even like with my course, I was telling you guys before, like, you know, I launched it to a small list of like 300 emails. I made a couple grand by launching this course. And it was like, for me, that was a new experience. I've used email marketing, but I never actually was able to turn it into a profit. You know what I mean? So seeing how that works, I'm like, okay. And it opens your mind to the possibilities of what you can do. It's like, okay, I got to build this list of people. You're not just going to like email your homies.
Of course.
You have to offer, in my opinion, you have to offer something
that people are
to get them to give you the email.
Yeah. Yes.
And then make sure that you're sending them, you know, the right offer afterwards.
Yes.
And the truth is, I'm a very like, you know, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but I'm a very value-based person. So like I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/5piece. And I'm giving away all kinds of free information that literally people look at me crazy for. Like, yo, dude, why are you giving this information for free? I'm like, I don't care. I want the relationship. I want people to know who I am. And I want to just be top of mind. So when someone goes, maybe they're like just casually watching stuff, and then one day they go, grants. 5PiECE. And then they call me. And that, I'm telling you, dude, that happens all the time. And it's crazy. I've connected with huge artists.
I bet you get that call once a week. Hey, bro, listen, I was thinking of applying for a grant. I remember you saying something like
Exactly.
That literally happened with me the other week because I was talking to a couple of co-producers that I work with, and they also release their own music. And as with any artist that have 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, they're not pulling in money like that, and they need money for their mixing, if they want to shoot a video, etc., etc. The same thing that we were talking about. And I was like, it's funny because you had just messaged me 2 days before. You're like, hey, I'd like to come on the podcast and talk about this thing. And I was like, oh, no better man to talk to than 5PiECE himself. So this guy, telling you he's a legend, he sent me this email. I sent it to the guys. It was like the most detailed, the most beautiful chef's kiss email I could have asked for. And now that I know the website, I'm gonna show them the website and get them to sign up for the course. I think it's like so helpful for these people that it's funny. It's such a, I guess, the grants are so, I guess, available, or it's not like it's a difficult process in the sense, not difficult, but it's a tedious process in the sense of like, they want to make sure that they're not just giving you free money for the sake of it.
Absolutely.
But if you're really doing this, I feel like it's almost easy to be like, if you're really doing it, here's all the information that you need, and they'll just be like, okay, yeah, this kind of fits. Or if it doesn't, there's so many grants that they can apply for.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, what I'm getting at is that these artists have no clue that these exist. They, I'm talking to them like, oh, I've never really looked into it, I never really thought about it, I don't really think it's for me, I don't really think, and I'm like, guys, like, there are so many things, there's so many grants out there, you just have to kind of look into it, which is why I think it's super important for you to be here and for, our listeners to listen to you talk about it, because I think for a lot of people, they're like, it's too much work, or I can't do that, or I can't,
totally.
So I guess in what I'm saying is like, I'm very appreciative of you being that way, of giving out that information.
Totally.
I see you on Instagram, you post your little tidbits of info, and
100%.
Like you were saying on your YouTube too. I think that's like literally so important for people to be educating themselves and to like learn about these things, because the matter of fact is people just don't know about it.
So true. And today, like, there's a quote, like, it's like something like, in today's internet society, like, ignorance is a choice.
Right.
Because the truth is, you can learn anything. And even be like, I'm offering the course, sure, but if you really, really wanted to, you could figure it out on your own too. Now, of course, you're going to have to.
Yours is just it's like they call on Reddit, TLDM. Too long didn't read.
Yeah.
TLDR.
TLDR.
Sorry.
Too long didn't message.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, you can go the harder way, right? Where you just apply to a grant on your own and make the mistakes, or you just save time and you can see. Because I'm telling you, I made every possible mistake. And if I'm able to make money and win grants, there's absolutely no reason why anybody else can't. You know what I mean? Like, all of us can do it.
I wonder if there's a podcast grant.
Don't give me a break.
Well, there are different. That's the thing that's interesting about grant writing, and it's kind of like, I haven't explored it yet, but there's so many ways to write grants for different things.
Yeah.
Business grants is a huge thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nonprofit granting is a huge thing.
Right.
And that's more of like when you talk to people in the States, like that's really when they think of grant writing, they think of that. But up here we have arts grants. And the thing is too, we're so focused on music, but by the way, like if you're a dancer, if you're a writer, like a literature writer, you know what I mean? If you're in theater,
there's
an
grants
actor,
for all that.
There's grants for all that stuff. Maybe not Factor, but Canada Council for the Arts. If you look at their disciplines, they have like 20 disciplines that they could fund, including like, deaf arts, and there's a lot of focus on Indigenous stuff. There's just so many different grants, and even in today's climate, depending on who you are, like you may even be able to qualify for more stuff, because they're really trying to fund, Indigenous people, like I'm saying. They're really trying to fund minorities, ethnic minorities. They're trying to fund francophones. So maybe you're a French rapper. Yeah, this is your shot, bro. Take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that information regarding, let's say, dancers, literature, etc., is that on your course or no?
I mention it, but my course really is for music creators.
Creators.
I imagine though, for people taking the course, like that will open the door if you are into those other things to just explore it. And the truth is, like, in my opinion, writing a grant is writing a grant. It's the same process, whether you're this or that. Yep. It's just about understanding what you're trying to do and communicating it effectively and
the clarity
in a compelling way, right?
And for these people that you were saying, is the best kind of program for them what is it, Canada Culture?
So if you're a new artist that's like never applied to a grant before, when I say new, I mean like you've dropped a few things, but like you're not like totally out of here type vibes. Go to like Factor for their artist development program. It's a $2,000 grant. They're increasing funding every year. So like I'm the dude that actually goes onto the annual report and sees like, okay, what do they give away? How much? To what genres? And I actually have some videos out there too that are, called like, can I win a grant from Factor for artist development? Or like, how likely am I? Something like that. I forgot what the exact title is. I break down, how likely are you? I'll give you the spoiler. You got about a 1 in 10 chance with Factor.
Yeah.
But then a Canada Council grant, I ran the numbers. You got closer to a 50% chance of getting a grant.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So 1 in 2 applications, you're probably going to get funded. Again, assuming that you're writing a quality application and it's not just dog shit.
These videos are on your YouTube.
These are on my YouTube.
YouTube.com/5piece.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And for the, say, dancers, literature artists, that's mostly Canada culture. That's
Canada Council for the Arts
Council,
for that.
that's it,
And
Canada
then also Ontario Arts Council has some programs. Not for every single thing, but like for dance and stuff like that. Yeah.
And because the reason I'm asking is because I know a bunch of dancers that, or like my friend's, girlfriend is a dancer, and it would be great for her to know. And I'm not sure if she knows about it. And I'm sure many other people as well know, like people like those kind of arts that aren't really like super public.
Totally,
it's kind of overlooked. Like they're like, oh, there's nothing for me. There's nothing for a literature writer. There's nothing for a dancer. But that's why I'm asking. It's very important for them to know 100%. There's also something for them too.
Even for organizations, you run a dance academy. It's probably a grant for you. You know what I mean? Like. Anything creative, you can find a way. People literally go for grants, and like I knew a dude who, applied for a Canada Council grant to get a year funded so he can go to LA, live there for a year, and write a novel.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I mean, I was talking about applying to go to a cottage for a couple weeks just to like cook up. You can get paid to create. Legit. That's like probably the biggest opportunity. You can literally get paid to create.
Wow.
To invest into your music, to grow your career.
I'm literally doing this course when I get home. I'm gonna see what I don't know.
I'm gonna.
This is
but we're obviously gonna.
You've really opened my eyes.
Yeah.
To this, like
you should.
I all I knew about grants coming into this was, a couple of my friends have applied for JSR, and guess how many of them have got it? None of them.
To be fair, the JSR is a difficult one to get. And, and the granting is competitive, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to realize, like sometimes you did everything right, but the truth is, like somebody did it better than you.
Of course.
So, and that happens. Like whenever I get rejected, which it does happen. Obviously, you're going to get rejected. It's just a part of the game. 9 times out of 10, I'll go on. Like I'm the assertive, annoying kind of guy where I'll like call the organization and like, what happened? Why didn't I get it? And like kind of be like that. And they always say like, dude, your grant was amazing. There's no negative feedback. It's just, you got like an 84.
There was someone that was
better.
You needed
87, bro. That's it. You know what I mean? Someone else did it.
It's quite interesting, and I'm gonna make sure that like everyone that I talk to knows about your website.
Yeah,
going forward
appreciate that,
here.
man.
Man.
I want to I guess now that we've gone through the meat and potatoes of the podcast. Tell us about like how'd you get into like I guess you got into production because of necessity. Where'd you get the name 5PiECE from? That's what I want to know.
The 5PiECE name is a fun story. So when I was like first getting into music production, it was like 2010. I downloaded Reason and I was just starting to poke around and make beats. And I always made music, but like this is the first time sitting down to make beats.
Sure.
And what would happen is like I would be making beats, and then we have like an Everybody Loves Raymond kind of setup at my house. So basically, like my family, my parents and stuff, we live in one house, and then across the street is my grandma's house, but now it's my aunt's house.
Legend.
And in my aunt's backyard, we have this place called The Shed. And The Shed was the blaze spot. So you'd go there to smoke weed and chill with your boys and all that stuff.
The devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce. So this might ruin all your sponsorships, but we can always cut it out if we need to. But so basically, like I would be banging beats, and then I would take a break. I would go across the street, and then like some of my homies, my bro and all his boys would be there, and I would always just have a $5 bill on me, and I'd be like, yo, who's got a 5-piece for me? Anybody got a 5-piece? And then they started calling me Danny 5-piece as a joke, because I would do this every single time. I'd make beats, go chill, smoke, come back kind of like refreshed and keep making beats. You know what I mean? Yeah. So then one day my boy's like, yo, Danny 5-piece, what up? The thing is, I'm not really the biggest fan of Danny. Like, I'll tolerate it, but like I'm not a Danny, personally speaking.
Are you a Daniel or a Dan?
I'm like a Dan or a Daniel. Gotcha. And the thing is, I know so many like old dudes named Danny and like really like small children named Danny, and for some reason that's where my mind goes. I feel like I'm just too in the middle for that, right?
Fair enough.
Again, I don't get mad about it. But so I needed a name. I'm like, fuck it, I'm 5-piece.
5-piece.
It's perfect. And it ties into everything else because 5-piece band.
Legend.
Americans love to say 5-piece chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
that's the thing I always get. Who got a 5-piece? And I always like just resent them, but I deal with it.
That's awesome.
Do you travel to the States often?
Like a decent amount. Like probably not as much as you guys, but like at least once a year I'm going to Atlanta.
Right.
I'll check my people out there and create, have some good times, throw some ones, enjoy myself.
What's the
very casual throwing of the ones.
Yeah. What is your? I guess this is maybe a tough question, but like, what's your main passion? Like, what do you love? Like,
even if it's not music.
Yeah, like even if it's not music, what do you love doing?
Yeah. So it's funny. I talk to people about this. Like, a lot of people, like, they always want to kind of categorize, like, are you a producer, are you this, are you that? And I always look at myself like a businessman, you know?
Of course.
Or maybe I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman,
Jay-Z,
right? Word to our boy Jay-Z,
yeah.
next guest.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed is happening. So, yeah, like, I just look at it like I want to do, like, really dope stuff. I really love people. I'm a social person. And sometimes, like, I find when I'm at the studio, like, engineering, like, on my own, mixing or whatever, like, you kind of get a little peeve sometimes. Like, you get in your own vibe and you're just like, this sucks, and you're not as motivated. But when I'm sitting here with people, like, I feed off that energy. So for me, I always want to just be doing stuff where I can build with people,
I feel
make something dope,
I feel that.
and make something that'll outlive us. Because, you know, one day it is all going to be done, but someone could listen to our record, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or check my course or watch a video on YouTube and reminisce on the good times. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is really interesting. So when you're not, I guess, what do you spend most of your days doing nowadays?
Right now it's been a lot of grant writing because I'm writing like 5 grants, and at the time of filming we're like end of September, and grants are doing like 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Busy
I'm like
season.
tunnel vision on that. Maybe not as happy as I usually am because I'm just so like
You're on a tight
monotonous.
schedule right now.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But my normal day to day, bro, like I wake up, I like to like get some exercise in, go walk around the block, go for a run, hit the gym, whatever. Get some coffee and then hit the studio, and I'll just go to the studio. And lately I've actually been like writing my own stuff because
That's
like
awesome.
seeing all this grant stuff, right? It's like, well, I'm getting grants for all these people. It'd be really nice to be able to just completely do this on my own because I already produce, I already
Yeah.
record,
Yeah.
I already engineer. I could literally do anything, you know what I mean, that I need to do to make this happen. And I know how to get the money. So why not just make a product? But the thing is, I don't have a whole lot of stuff out there under my own name right now. I'm always like a credit, right? Like produced by 5PiECE, right?
Right.
So by building up my own catalog, which is sort of my Q4 goal, I'll say, I'm pretty confident I'll be able to start actually getting grants for myself completely.
That's amazing, man.
And then who knows what'll happen after that? That might open up a whole nother world. I love just reinventing myself all the time
love
and
that.
exploring new things, learning,
Awesome.
you know?
Awesome. That's fantastic. Nick, did you have any more questions for Dan?
Dude, I think we covered so much
Yeah, I
ground
think that
today
was
with
like
with the grants. That
Literally. Like,
was- last question.
Yes.
How many times a year does the grant like due dates come around?
yes.
That is a good question. So it's going to depend on the organization. Factor now, they've just changed everything. They have pretty much 2 deadlines for their main programs.
Yeah, you said
which
one
is
in
like-
April, one in October.
I
or
think it's
something?
May and October
May
now,
and
if I'm not
October.
mistaken. Things have got a little weird because of COVID. Like they kind of have adjusted dates and added some
course.
time, whatever, for people. So those are the big 2 for them. For Canada Council, it's like a lot of like March, April, and then like October, November.
Gotcha.
Ontario Arts Council is kind of the same.
But
Tor-
it's mainly twice a year.
Mainly twice a year. Sometimes you get 3. Toronto Arts
Gotcha.
Council is the only one that's a bit tricky. Like for the music recording and creation program, unless they change it, it's always just been like September, one time. So if you miss it, you're screwed for
If
12
I
months.
wanted to, I don't know if we asked this in a different wording before, but let's say I wanted to go and I wanted to do like all of those grants from the different organizations all at one time.
Sure.
Could you do that?
You could. You just have to
They,
be
they
like,
don't talk type of thing?
well, you are supposed to.
No, I'm like, I know that's like a weird way to put it, but like, yeah, like they don't talk to each other. Like, okay,
Well-
we're going to give it to him, but so you don't give it to him? Kind of
Yeah,
thing?
like they may not necessarily communicate that directly, or they might. Like I'm sure there is like a lot
Gotcha.
of parlay between the 2.
I'm sure.
But like when you are applying for a grant, some of them require that you fill out a budget form.
Yeah.
And on that budget form, you would disclose if you have other grants that you've applied to and
Gotcha.
whether or not they're confirmed.
Yeah.
So like,
So you can't play the system.
yeah. And the truth is, do not ask for the grant organization to cover 100% of your project.
They won't
It
do
is
it.
not going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it could help to have other organizations invested because then they might be like, oh, Factor's going to give you $5,000 and Ontario Arts Council is giving you $5,000. Well, I mean, that looks pretty good. Like, why are they giving it to you? We should give you some too.
Yeah.
And then maybe you put your own $5,000 in as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interesting.
As long as there's a good balance and they're not covering everything, because then they know like you could just take the money and be like peace, and then they got to clean up a mess later. You know?
Yeah.
100%. Just before we wrap, let's outline all the resources that we said. So your
Yes.
website is
www.findingfunding.ca. If you go there, right now it's just a landing page for the paid course, but I'm sure by the time this is up,
It'll
I'll either
be
have
more.
another breakdown with a bunch of stuff, including the free course. You'll find it. No matter what, you'll find everything we're talking about.
Findingfunding.com.
.ca.
.ca.
.ca. Very important
Come on,
distinction.
Nick. We're in Canada.
I tried to get .com, but me and Damon John from FUBU been fighting over it. I wish that was a joke.
Your YouTube, youtube.com
/5piece.
/5piece.
And that's the number 5, and then spelt out
Number
piece.
5, and don't make the mistake I did early on. Piece is spelled PIECE.
Yes.
Not EI, okay?
I feel like I do both and see which one I get auto-corrected on.
Exactly.
I before E except after C, I think is the thing.
You know what? In some cases it's not, and it happens too often for that to even be a rule.
You know what?
I've
We're not
noticed
getting
that.
into the semantics
Sorry.
of it right now. We're not going to get into the grammar.
You know,
right
because
now.
okay, yeah.
It's an important conversation.
He's right, though. It is an important conversation for another time. Your Instagram, just 5piece.
Instagram.com/5piece. You'll find me.
Awesome.
And then the names of some of the main grant organizations, just one more time.
So if you're in Ontario, okay, first of all, if you're anywhere in Canada, let's do that first.
Yep.
Anywhere in Canada, you can apply to Factor, and you can apply to Canada Council for the Arts.
Okay.
Now, of course, there's other organizations that you're going to hear about. There's like the Radio Star Maker Fund and all these different things that I haven't necessarily mentioned. Don't get too caught up. Again, Google, wherever you're located, that music grants. Toronto, music grants. Mississauga, music grants. Ontario, BC, wherever, that location, music grants, you'll find what you need to find. Because every province has their own, a bunch. Like Alberta has completely different stuff that we can't qualify for.
Of course.
And vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the big ones. If you're in Ontario Arts Council is going to be the one. If you're in BC, like BC Music Fund, I think is another one. There's all different kinds. I specialize in Ontario because that's where we're at. So
Okay. Excellent. Fantastic.
Awesome, man.
We'll include the information in like various Instagrams and bios and
Thanks
whatnot.
for coming on the
Appreciate you
podcast.
guys.
Thanks for
you
shedding
guys
so much light, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely helpful for the people that are listening. I think you really just changed a lot of people's lives.
I hope so, man. That's the plan, bro. Come back to me in a few years and let me know how everybody does. You know what I mean? If you guys have any success because of me, DM me, comment, let me know. I love to see that. I want to be a part of everybody's success story. And just keep pushing the culture forward.
What a fantastic guy.
Love it.
As always, thank you everybody for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, the whole situation. You know how it goes. Anything I'm forgetting?
@Thoughts in Stereo everywhere.
That's it.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.